Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we were called to a local business that had found one of their storage sheds had a very active yellowjacket nest in it. They were entering from the back of the shed, as you see here, and when we arrived on the first day to inspect the site, we went inside the shed, and sure enough, there was a very large German yellowjacket nest down on the floor. It was a very busy nest, all wrapped around several pieces of corrugated plastic tubing, and they were coming in through the back seam on the wall where the wall meets the floor, and they were getting aggressive already. German yellowjackets are typically one of the most docile species that we deal with, but when the nests get very large, they can get pretty aggressive to defend it. On the day we inspected, we decided to start collecting from the outside with the battery-powered vacuum that we use because there was no external power anywhere in this warehouse district where we were. The business was located right up against the railroad tracks, and because of that, there's not a lot of room back there behind that warehouse. And as you see here, the tracks are only a few yards away, so anybody who walked back there really had no way to get around this shed safely if there was a large swarm near it. So we went back the following day. We hooked up 2 vacuums at once, and as you see here, we put them on a splitter with one electrical line, and we just started collecting bottle after bottle of German yellowjackets. It was a very large population. This is always great for venom immunotherapy collection, which is where all of our yellowjackets end up. And despite the dual vacuums and all the chaos of collection, they were still trying to expand the nest. As you see here, they're trying to build more paper on the outside opening of the back of the shed. They were not deterred at all, so we just had to keep collecting them, bottle after bottle. Eventually, we had enough collected that it was safe to begin the removal from the inside of the shed. So as you see here, we loaded in gear, 1 vacuum, also a light, and some tools and a bin. Then we closed ourselves in with the yellowjackets using a bungee cord to keep the door closed, just allowing the electrical line and the vac line to come through, and we got to work. First order of business was to remove some of the debris away from the work area so we had some space to work on this nest. That's what you see us doing here. The nest was pretty large. Inside, you can see a boot here that's about 13-14 inches long, and the nest was quite a bit bigger than that. So we first started collecting any of the wasps that were moving around the outside of the nest. They were on both sides of the nest, both sides of this corrugated tubing that they had built right over. So all of their wasp paper had kind of glued itself onto these plastic tubes. So we had to cut the tubes out of the nest and then remove the rest of the nest piece by piece. You can see here how they built their comb right up into the grooves inside the corrugated plastic. So the nest ended up having a very unique shape that was sort of a mold of these corrugated plastic tubes. The nest not only wrapped around both sides of these tubes that were covered in paper, but it also extended into some of the tubing. So some of the comb we found was actually inside these plastic pipes. The nest was covered in a large amount of envelope paper that the wasps create, and it's a very interesting material because there's so many different layers to it that it acts as a thermoregulation system that keeps the temperature inside the brood comb exactly at the right temp for the developing brood in the nest, which are the eggs, larvae, and pupae that are developing into adult wasps over a period of a couple of months. We vacuumed up many adult wasps as we went along, and then we pulled the brood comb out, and then we secure it in a transport bin, and that's what we'll take back to the vespiary where we can incubate it for venom immunotherapy. Here we're digging out more of the comb that we found inside these tubes. It ended up being a multi-layer nest. Some were large and on the outside of the tube, some were smaller and packed inside the tubes. They were all over the place. Once we had everything contained, we did a quick sweep up, and we ended up with 2 bins full of material, one full of envelope paper, the other filled mostly with brood comb, as you see here. Once we had everything contained, we went back into the shed and we treated the nest area with an essential oil spray mixed with soap and water. We treated the outside of the shed as well. It's just a non-toxic deterrent, no poisons required. Then we took the brood comb back to our incubation box that you see here, and we added it to a very large group of nests that we had collected throughout the season that had blended together into one super nest inside this incubation box. Each incubation box that we have is specific to one species, and in this case, these are all German yellowjacket nests that we put inside this box. And we incubate thousands more wasps out as they hatch out of these nests and become adults, and we can collect them for venom immunotherapy. So we're going to take you back now to September 29th and September 30th of 2025, and we're going to show you this entire job. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Enjoy the show. And we're at a local business that called us for help with a wasp nest inside one of their sheds on their property. As you can see here, in the back of the shed, we have multiple entrances. And we'll try to get a look at these to get a species ID real quick. Fairly sizable nest, it looks like. So we'll go inside the shed and see what we have. It's possible it's underneath the shed. But most likely they're entering the shed. So we'll take a look and see. Try to capture a couple here, get a species ID first. Looks like here's an entry point. Like wasp paper right here, hanging out the back of the wood that they have chewed away the wood. Like German Yellowjackets. It's possible it's Flavopalosa, which is downy Yellowjackets. But what we're going to do is open this shed up, get some light in here, and look for the nest. Looks like a good-sized German from here. Yeah, what you can see here is a very large Germanica nest. Here they come on the split. So that's going to be a dangerous nest for anybody who tries to come after that. So we need to suit up well and get the vacs running for a while in there. So we'll probably have to do this one tomorrow. But we'll see. Let's start collecting now. So we just netted a few and shook them up in the container so we can get an idea what they look like, so we can get a better look at them. They look like Germanica. But they're pretty aggressive for Germanica. But it's a big nest. And when the nests are that large, they tend to be more aggressive anyway. All right, we're going to start this collection by just collecting them from the outside. Just doing a little attrition collection for a while to knock down the population before we remove the nest tomorrow. So we've got the battery pack running. The battery vac is great because it ends up just being used everywhere we go. We don't have to worry about power because there's no exterior power here at all. So we just pull out the battery vac and start going to work, collecting to reduce the population. It's going to be a big population in that nest, so we want to reduce as much as we can before we go in to remove it. So tomorrow we have the business arranging power for us. We're going to get in through a side door tomorrow morning to do the removal, and we'll have access to power at that point so we can plug in our vacs and not have to worry about running out of battery power while we're doing that big removal. So let's go in and take one more look at that. It's a pretty massive nest. It's probably about 2 feet long. Multiple entrances. You can see where they're coming in on the sides over here, clustered up. That's out where the vac is now. So we'll come do this removal tomorrow. So getting a little ornery already. So this is why you wait until you reduce the population before you go in to remove it, because they're going to be pretty hardcore and ornery. They get stuck in the gloves, but in human skin they don't get stuck. They can sting many times, but in leather they get stuck. Gives us a chance to get good close-up imagery on the species. These are a little aggressive for German Yellowjackets. So it's September 29th, 2025, and we're at a local business that called us for assistance with a very large, active German Yellowjacket nest inside one of their storage sheds. So we're going to remove the nest tomorrow, but for today we're just going to reduce the population a little bit by collecting them from the entry point at the back of the shed. All right, here's the first collection from today. September 30th, 2025. We are in the process of doing phase 1 collection on this very large Germanica nest, German Yellowjackets, that have built a nest inside this business's storage shed, and we are doing phase 1 collection for as long as it takes to reduce the population, because it's a huge nest and we don't want a giant swarm here on a business site while we collect. So we're just going to run down this population for a while using vacuum collection, and once the population's been reduced quite a bit, we'll go in and remove that nest. All right, here's the first bottle from the shed collection. Now we're going to change out the bottle. Yeah, it's going to be a big nest, very high population. All right, we're on our second collection bottle now. We'll run this collection probably another hour before we attempt to remove that nest. A second vacuum and a second collection bottle here just to make it more efficient, because we have such a large population we're dealing with here. So we've got 2 vacs running off a splitter on 1 power line provided by the client business, which is handy, and it's our splitter, and we can do 3 vacs at a time off this splitter. For now we're using 2. The third line will probably run a light into the shed when we start doing collection. one wasp, despite all the chaos of the collection, one wasp is just building paper right on the edge. You see it there working the paper. Second bottle. Looks like we're getting about ready to collect and freeze that one now. This is bottle number 2. Gonna get that one frozen now. The third bottle or so from this shed collection. Next bottle, this will be bottle number 4. Bottle number 7 here on the outside collection. And we're about to go inside now and pull the full nest brood comb out of there. And we're going to leave this running so that as they keep leaving the shed, they'll keep entering in the same space. And that way we'll just keep collecting all the ones that come out while we do the removal. All right, so we are inside the shed with a very large Vespiary Germanica nest. And let's get this organized so we can work. First thing we need to do is make some space. So we've got a light here and a collection bottle. Let's start using those. So as you can see, we just shut ourselves in here with a bungee cord to keep the door closed, but the back hose and the electric power can get through because we want all of the wasps as much as possible to stay in here with us so they can be collected and not pose a risk to all of the employees that may be in this area at this business. So the first thing we're going to do is just clear some space. So for size reference, here's a hand. Good size nest. So they've wrapped paper all the way around these plastic tubes. These tubes are pretty large. Probably a 6-inch diameter tube, give or take. the light right on the nest. That way they'll stay engaged with the light and keep everything localized. Makes them easier to collect. It's hard to reach back in here, so we'll get them later. But they built paper all the way around here, covering up that space that leads to the outside. And we've collected most of them. We've spent about 3 hours today collecting from the outside. So we have the vast majority of the attacking wasps, female foragers, already collected. And that's what makes this type of job easier when you're dealing with a big nest, with a high population. You just want to take your time with it. So they are stinging. That's why we use 2 pairs of gloves. I'm going to keep the collection bottle right here by the light where they congregate. For now, that'll work. I'm going to start removing comb and paper and putting it into a bin. We run across a single queen, we'll put her in a queen cage. If there's many queens, which there may be this time of year, if they're making new queens, we won't be able to tell which is which. So we're just going to put everything in the bin. Very awkward space to work here, on top of various pipes and metal pieces. That's the way it often is. You're working in spaces like this pretty routinely in this job. All right, let's start removing paper. You can see the imprint here. They built the comb layers right into the groove where that other pipe was. Queen comb. These are all going to be new queens. There's one here. The new queens flee very quickly, try to get away. A lot of males being born this time of year as well. Go. It's time to go get another bin, because this one is full already. comb even inside the pipe.
So these are all covered in very thick, glued-on wasp paper. So we're going to recommend to the client that they cut these off and dispose of them, because they'll attract more wasps. Two bins filled with comb and paper. Here's the last bottle. This one was from inside the shed, so it's mostly debris and males, so we're not going to freeze this for venom immunotherapy. We'll just freeze it to euthanize and get rid of these.
So we have now treated the area with an essential oil mix. It's a soap and water mix. So there's nothing left here. Nothing moving. And around the outside, we sprayed the outside entry points with the same soap and water essential oil mix. And that just basically eliminates the problem. You see a few foragers trying to come back and they really can't enter where the oil is or they die. So the last few here will die off over the next couple of days. Without the nest to support them, they can't survive. So that's a wrap on this job. All right, it's September 30th, 2025. This is our Vespula germanica incubation box. We're going to put a new nest in there that we took out of a shed today. This already has 4 or 5 previous nests becoming a super nest, as you can see. We have to do this pretty quickly. Take these new combs and stack them over here. Use the clean combs on this nest. So this nest used to be several, and now it's one kind of massive blended together. So we're just going to take all of these combs and stack them in here. This was a big nest. Just cover up the new comb a little bit with their paper. And that goes up again. It's a little bit busy over here right now.